Hello BookTube, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and it's time to do my November wrap-up. It is December 7th right now as I'm filming it, and it will probably take me a couple of days to get this video edited, so I would say it's a little overdue. But I had a really good reading month in November. I was in the hospital with my daughter up until the day before Thanksgiving. We were released, so I did have a pretty good amount of reading time. I did more print reading when I was in the hospital, and then after we got home I did more audiobook reading. Altogether I finished 18 books in the month of November, and because of Nonfiction November, 10 of the books that I read were nonfiction, and then I started one other nonfiction book that I did not finish and will not finish. Then that leaves 8 books that were fiction. Only one of the fiction books were print. The rest of the fiction books were audio. In fact, for the whole month, 11 of the books out of the 18 were audio, and that left 7 that were print. So let's get started. So a lot of these I've already talked about in my Friday Reads videos and videos throughout the month of November. So because wrap-ups are my least favorite thing to film and I am limited on time today, I'm just going to go through these kind of quick, and I will also be doing a wrap-up of all of the nonfiction books that were part of my TBR jar. So those I'll just tell you the titles of, and I will give you a little more about those when I do that wrap-up video. I'm still finishing up one book that was a TBR jar pick, and then I will wrap those up. So let's do the fiction first. I only read one print book. It wasn't this book, but the one I did read was an interlibrary loaned book, and I had to go ahead and get it sent back. But it was the third book in the Brazos Bend Callahan Brothers series by Geralyn Dawson. This is book 1, Give Him the Slip. The book I read was called Always Look Twice, or its new name is called Mark, the Callahan Brothers by Emily March. So you guys have heard me talk before. Geralyn Dawson is Emily March, and so this older series went by different names, and now they are on Audible under their new names and under the Emily March author name. I want to read the Eternity Spring series by Emily March, and supposedly these books are sort of prequels to that series. So I have finished this trilogy now. There is the little novella called Callahan Carol. I bought it on my Kindle, and I'm going to be reading it this month in December in anticipation of starting Eternity Springs hopefully pretty soon. So that was my only print book that was fiction. Also in the beginning of the month I finished up The Apple Orchard by Susan Wiggs. I had started this in October. This was a buddy read between Sarah and I from Steeped in Books, and we opened it up to anyone else who wanted to participate, and we had a few other participants, and we chatted about it on my Goodreads group, Lizzie Faye's Comfy Corner. I liked this one better than the previous Susan Wiggs book that I read, which was called Map of the Heart, and it was okay, but I talked about it earlier. It wasn't the best book in the world. It could have lived without the romance aspect in it. It didn't really need that. It had enough elements that it didn't really need that, but I don't know. I might read the next book in the series just to see if I like it any better. And then another book that I had been working on for quite a while because it's a chunker is The City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. This is the last book in the Mortal Instruments, and this is where I'm stopping with Shadowhunters. I know that there's the Dark Artifices and all of that, but I've read now the Infernal Devices and the Mortal Instruments in publication order. They were okay. Not my thing really, but I'm not a quitter. I'm a finisher. So I have finished both of these series now, and really I got started with these because when I'm sure like a lot of you, when you first start watching BookTube, the first videos you find are the big booktubers who are talking about YA fantasy. And at the time I started watching BookTube in 2015, this is what people were talking about. And I had to jump on the bandwagon and see what it was all about. Now I am, getting a little better about reading what is my taste. However, because I had started this series, I wanted to finish it, and now I have. Okay, so then I read for my read-along one of the read-alongs on my Goodreads group. I am reading this with Elise Hung, and really it's a read-along that's open to anybody, but Elise was the only one who said she wanted to read this with me, and we read book 3, The Comforts of Home by Jodi Thomas. This is the Harmony series that we're reading. The first 3 were rereads for me, and now we are reading book 4, and so it is new. I have not read the rest of the series, and I'm super excited about continuing with the series. It's just really good family drama, small town community events and people, and it's just great. I love these so far. And then one other fiction book was for one of the other read-alongs that I'm hosting on my Goodreads group. This is The Wedding Circle by Ashton Lee. This is book 3 in the Cherry Cola Book Club series. And let me know if you read this. I don't know if I've had anyone comment yet on the thread for this book on my discussion. A couple people did comment and say that they were still in it. They just hadn't been commenting, at least in the discussion threads. So if you have time, sometime, go back and you know, at least say, hey, I read it. I just didn't have anything to say, or whatever, and let me know how many of you are still in it with me for this read along. This month we are reading A Cherry Cola Christmas for December, and I hope that some of you will read that with me. Then a couple of middle grade books. I finished up the Cahill's versus Vespers series. This is the second series of the 39 Clues. There is at least 1 or 2 more spin-off series. I finished the original 39 Clues a while back, and so the Cahill's versus Vespers book 5 is Trust No One by Linda Sue Park. And then book 6, Day of Doom, is by David Baldacci. I didn't even know that David Baldacci ever wrote children's books, but this was really good. It was a good conclusion to the series, and I enjoyed both of these. Now, I listened to them on Hoopla on audio, narrated by David Pittu, which is how I've listened to all of the 39 Clues books. But these 2 nice hardcover books I am going to send to my nephew Tate. I've already sent him the whole original 39 Clues series and the first 4 of this series, so I'm going to send him these this year. In fact, I just hauled this this week. I listened to it before I ever had the physical copy, but I had scouted it out. I knew that they had it at my closest used bookstore. At least I hoped that they still had it by the time we got out of the hospital, and I went back yesterday actually and found it, and so I'm excited to have that to send him. So I think that's all of the fiction. Oh no, it's not. I have one other fiction book that I listened to right at the end of the month because I found an audio copy of this, I think, on my birthday when I went shopping at the Orlando Public Library. This is Sonoma Rose by Jennifer Chiaverini, and it is book 19, I believe, in the Elm Creek Quilt series. There's only 1 book left, and it's kind of a holiday, Christmassy, Thanksgiving kind of a book. So if I can find it on audio, I may go ahead and listen to it and finish that series this year. That would be great. I hope there's going to be more. I hope that's not going to be the last one. But lately she's been writing more standalone historical books and hasn't really added anything to this series in quite a while. This was really good. In fact, had I should have read it sooner, but I was stalled on it because I couldn't ever get it on audio, and it's a pretty thick book. One thing I will say about it, I noticed that and I'd kind of forgotten this, but I think this is typical of Jennifer Chiaverini. She writes really long chapters so much of the time. There is a chapter in here that is like 55 pages long. Had I been trying to read this in print, that would have probably driven me bonkers. But it was on audio, so it was okay. But still, 55 pages for one chapter is just too much. So anyway, that's my only complaint. But I love this whole series. I will say though that this book is really very loosely related to the Elm Creek Quilt series. The one character who left Pennsylvania, this is a historical book, so the one character who started out in the Elm Creek area and then moved to California, there's a book about her and her husband, and then this is about someone else from that community in California, obviously Sonoma. So it's not really related to Elm Creek Quilts. It really only has a little bit about the quilts in it, but it's still a great story. Jennifer Chiaverini is a great storyteller, and I really did enjoy the book. Didn't always like the life choices that the characters made. In fact, I didn't like a lot of them, but it still a great story. Jennifer Chiaverini does really know how to spin a tale and make for a very interesting story. So I listened to this on audio on CD, and then the rest of the books were nonfiction, or at least what I would consider nonfiction. This book is debatable because it's a companion book to a fictional series, but it has some narration by the author and then excerpts from parts of the series, so it could really go either way. This is Bathed in Prayer by Jan Karon. I'm going to do another video review of this and talk about some other Jan Karon books, so I won't talk about it now again yet, but it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So next I'll show you the nonfiction books that I read out of my TBR jar, and I will do a video just about these where I'll tell you a little more about them in a different video. So I read the Everything Organize Your Home book by Jason Rich. I read Clippings from My Notebook by Corrie ten Boom, and this was probably my favorite of this group of books. I read Getting the Pretty Back by Molly Ringwald, and I read a very old edition of Preparing for Adolescence by Dr. James Dobson. Now, this book has been released in newer editions, but honestly, the advice and the things he talks about in here are timeless. So it didn't really matter that this particular edition came out in the 70s. I thought it was fine. And then I did not finish Big 5-0 by Bill Geist, and I'm not going to finish it. I'm going to DNF it. And then I have one other one that I'm still working on, and when I finish it, I will do a wrap-up of all of those books and then draw out some new picks out of my TBR jar. Now, on that same video, the TBR jar video, I had one fiction book, and I read a couple of chapters of it, and I decided to put it aside until January because I want to, I still do want to read it, but I need to focus on my Christmas books and all of that, and the read-alongs and everything. So I am going to go ahead and postpone that one until January. Okay, a couple of other nonfiction books that I read during the month of November. This is one that my husband wanted me to read, Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. This is pretty old, but I think we're going to try this. The main thing I got from this is that you should eat foods in different combinations and different order, or different things at different times of the day to aid your digestion. So you only eat fruit in the morning, and you don't eat fruit on top of other complex foods, or it will just sit in your stomach and ferment. So that kind of makes sense to me. He says don't eat too many complex foods in the same meal. You know, eat your fiber type foods, you know, with one complex food, like one meat or one starch, and then the rest of that meal should just be, you know, fruits and vegetables, or things like, or not fruits, vegetables, like fiber type things in the same meal, and then wait in between. So I don't know, it might be kind of tricky to do, but I think we're going to try it. So anyway, I'll let you know how it turns out. And then I read for book club, I had two different books, nonfiction books for my In Real Life book club. We read The Midnight Assassin by Skip Hollandsworth. If you want to know more about this, check out Emily Sears' video that she did during March Mystery Madness. Her new channel name is called The Redhead is Reading, so I will link that video down below. I did enjoy this. It was very interesting. It wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but I don't know what I thought it was going to be. So then I also read Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI by David Grann. I didn't love this as much as I wanted to. I'm originally from Oklahoma, and I thought this was going to be really more compelling than I thought it was. And I think maybe I just have a disconnect with David Grann because I didn't really like Lost City of Z either, and I felt like that I really was interested in the content more than I enjoyed the book. I don't know if that makes sense. I was listening to it on audio, and I was distracted a little bit in the hospital. Anyway, both of these were book club books. This was for the Mystery Book Club, and this was for the regular book club. I didn't get to attend either meeting, but I at least did get the books done. I listened to both of them on audio. I listened to the Killers of the Flower Moon on audio CD from my library, and I went ahead and purchased The Midnight Assassin on Audible. I used one of my Audible credits for that. Then one of the other audiobooks that I listened to was a summary of Killers of the Flower Moon. It was put out by Speedy Reads, I believe, and I found it on Hoopla. I was very disappointed in it. I was hoping that because I kind of only listened to this with one ear and I was distracted, that if I listened to a summary of it, that I might be able to get a little more out of it. However, the narrator was very disappointing. Now, I will give him a lot of grace because I read his bio afterwards and I realized that he is not American, at least not by birth, and he's lived in a lot of different countries, so English is probably not his first language, and he probably doesn't know how to pronounce things that are typically American or certain place names. But he couldn't pronounce the word Osage, and this is about Osage murders. The entire summary, which was 45 minutes at regular speed, he said Osage. And to hear that, even at first I thought because I was speeding it up a little bit, I thought it was just because it was sped up. But I went back to, regular speed, and he was still saying Osage. And I thought, how does that happen? That's like one of the main words in the entire book. How does that get past the producers or the directors or whoever is putting these things out? It's not Osage. It's Osage. And I know it might seem like a little thing to maybe someone whose first language is not English, but it's really annoying for the listener, really. And then there were a couple of place names that he didn't know how to pronounce. Bowie, Texas, he might have pronounced it Bowie or Bowie. And that's a commonly mispronounced name, but it is Bowie. My uncle used to live there, and he had a business called Bowie Welding Supply, and I know for a fact that it's pronounced Bowie, although it's spelt B-O-W-I-E. And then the other word was Pahuska, and he was pronouncing it Pahuska. And I just had to laugh at that because that was just funny. So anyway, it really, I don't even know if the summary helped me with the book or not, because I was so focused on him mispronouncing things that I don't even know. So I was disappointed in that. Then the other nonfiction book I read that I loved is books by Larry McMurtry. I now want to read everything by Larry McMurtry. I'm probably not going to like the subject matter of a lot of his stuff, but he has such a great relationship with books and book selling and book reading and writing, and it was just such a good memoir. I want to go to his bookstore. I loved this book. It's not very long on audio. It's maybe 5 hours, 4.5, 5 hours, something like that. And I thought it was great. So if you are a bookish person, I think you would enjoy reading books by Larry McMurtry. And that's it. Those, I believe, are all of the books that I read in the month of November, or that I listened to on audio. And I had a pretty good reading month overall. I am very excited about it. My Goodreads total now is something like 220 by the end of the month. I finished a couple of books already in December, so now it's like 222. But anyway, I might be able to make it to 250 this year. We'll see. I don't know. So that's all for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, or anything. I just love to chat. In fact, I was watching Sylvia from Wish Fulfillment, I guess this morning, and I noticed that she is putting on her channel, at the bottom of her video screen, it says, send me an emoji, comment an emoji just to let me know you're here. And I love that idea, and I hope she doesn't mind if I steal that from her, because I would love to know who is watching. I know not everybody wants to comment, and some of you might not even want me to know you're watching, and that's okay. But I would just love to know who's watching, because if like 3, 5, 10 people comment and 150 people are watching, who are you that's watching? I would love to know. Just say hi, or send me an emoji. I don't know. Join my Goodreads group. Get in on some read-alongs. There are several going on right now, and there'll be some more starting at some point in 2019. So that's all for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.